were experiencing at the time, certainly around 2000, is that there was a transformation going on in the world. The institutions of post-World War II were showing their age. They were showing their age very much in representativeness, but they also needed to respond to more contemporary challenges. And so those were very much at play in the conception of CIGI.
In the early years, the main issue there was the fact that we had a world that was still effectively G7-centric. But we knew that the so-called emerging powers, the emerging economies, mattered, and that there had to be some way to bring them in to global governance discussions.
The Western world is clearly relatively much less significant and important, and will be less so in the future. How do you go through a transition like this without conflict, where you can have discussion, and where you can come out of the end of it, where the world is a better place than it otherwise would be? So our focus in the period 2004, 5, 6 was on, let's move the G20 from the finance level to the leaders level.
CIGI played an important role throughout this, because what CIGI did is establish relationships with all of the other think tanks in the G20. And so what you had is you had a construct of academics and professional diplomats who were pushing, and economists pushing for the same thing.
So the core mandate of CIGI has always been about improving the global governance system. And that comes with, initially, we talked about institutions. Certainly we responded to issue areas like the international financial crisis. But the great thing is that we've also evolved very much according to the needs of what the gaps are in our understanding.
And so the early origins was understanding that the world is changing and it needs to be shaped. But my goodness, that evolved with the just cascading digital transformation in the ensuing 20 years.
I think we've embarked on a really interesting subject matter now. We've kind of shifted increasingly to the cyber realm, the involvement of tech in society, all things digital, and I think that's really the future.
And so intangibles and what makes them up, which is data, digital technologies, intellectual property, and also things like branding, hugely matter when it comes to wealth creation and its distribution.
We're in a place where the free flow of goods, services, data, and capital is at risk because of the regulatory and legal frameworks, the different approaches that our countries are taking. And you're seeing an increased surveillance state, whether it's the government surveilling the data or it's the corporations collecting and monetizing that data.
You can't divorce that conversation from a conversation about national prosperity, intellectual property, trade, cybersecurity. I mean, they're all commingled now, economic development and economic security. And so I would say that our research, what we're doing is breaking down traditional horizontal policy silos.
And CIGI was very shrewd in saying this isn't a vertical, this is a cross-cutting aspect that's principally shaping just about everything.
And so this is a fresh area in global governance. We don't have the institutions and processes to manage the digital era.
The importance of global governance in this area is we really want to realize the benefits of this digital transformation. We want to see our economies grow. And so it requires us to start to have more broader dialogue, increase the governance, start to think about new frameworks that are going to be necessary for the digital next few decades.
The role of think tanks, in my mind, is going to be more and more important as we go down this road. My hope is that CIGI is sitting at the intersection between universities, the private sector, and government, and that we're advancing the best policy recommendations possible.
And there's no question, in many respects, these forces in the marketplace are running ahead of institutions, are running ahead of policy, are running ahead of the understanding of both society and experts. And so this is where a think tank can play a really powerful role in helping inform public, helping inform policymakers, helping convene different stakeholders, and seeing where you can resolve issues or where the differences can be laid bare so that people understand what they're dealing with. This is a remarkable contribution that I see CIGI making.